live from Force 13 HQ and from our contributors from around the world. Here's your tropical weather bulletin. Good morning, it's August the 15th, 2017, and we've got all of these systems active right now. The remnants of Hova out in the Eastern Pacific, obviously Gert taking centre stage in the Atlantic, about to become a hurricane by the way, and Invest 91L out over in the Central Atlantic getting there. Invest 91W over there near Palau, and Typhoon Banyan, which is a Category 2 still. Right now though, Tropical Storm Gert has winds of 70 miles an hour and a pressure of 992 millibars. There it is right now. That's the GOES 16 visible imagery that we saw earlier today. Fantastic 1 minute imagery there. 30.6 degrees north, 72.3 west. No warnings in effect right now. You can quite clearly see an eye feature there. It is a bona fide eye, and it will probably attain hurricane force winds very soon indeed. What we expect from the National Hurricane Centre's forecast is that by tonight into tomorrow, it will be a Category 1, and then it will accelerate off towards the northeast and become extratropical quite quickly actually. The National Hurricane Centre says it will happen by Thursday. This is the picture in the Atlantic Ocean as a whole right now. You can see Gert progressing to the northwest there, and Invest 91L in that big mess there, you could call it, out over there in the Eastern Atlantic, with one or two systems competing, you could argue there. Ex-Hova on its own out in the East Pacific, though there are two areas that the National Hurricane Centre has designated not as Invest but as small chances of development, and you can see them down towards the bottom right hand side there, but nothing of note particularly yet. In the West Pacific, 91W looking worse for wear, and Banyan still going, Category 2, 100 miles an hour, and it's been battling for quite a while as well. The eye trying to pop out yet again. It's still trying to make its mind up on that as it progresses off towards the north-northwest. In the Southern Hemisphere, in case you're interested, Australia and the South Pacific looks like this, not too much going on there. A few extratropical cyclones down the southern part of Australia, south of there, and a few tropical thunderstorms, you could say, near the tropics. In the Indian Ocean, you can see a little flare up there not far from the Seychelles, and the typical monsoonal types pattern going on in the North Indian Ocean, the Bay of Bengal. The sea surface temperatures are looking pretty warm, especially in the Gulf of Mexico, 30 degrees plus, and temperatures recovering after Franklin's passage through the Caribbean as well. Where Gert is right now, 30 degrees or so, well, not quite 30 actually, 28, 29 Celsius. Those will begin to disappear as the storm moves off towards the northeast day 2 and 3. And in the Eastern Hemisphere, the Philippine Sea, they're looking rather warm indeed. Temperatures will begin to drop for Banyan pretty soon, by the way, but for Invest 91W looking pretty good. Tropical Storm Gert looks like this on the floater imagery right now, moving off towards the northwest. Over the last few hours we get to see how it's been looking, and the infrared imagery there shows the eye beginning to appear again as well. Northern side looking pretty good, southern side lacking a little bit, could do better, but it could intensify significantly over the next 24 hours. Category 1 is what the National Hurricane Centre is saying. The models have been rather low on this, by the way, apart from one, the HWRF, which has consistently been saying a major hurricane Category 3 or 4. Typhoon Banyan looks like this, a rather compact system. It has been for the whole time, and you can see it progressing off towards the north, perhaps a little bit of an acceleration in that. No land areas at risk. It formed not far from Wake Island, but it's moving way far away from anything out over there in the Western Pacific, not too far from the international date line, but that's how it's looking on the infrared views, the water vapor imagery there as well, and another view here as daylight has reached the Western Pacific, and the storm under the glorious visible imagery of the Himawari satellite moving off towards the north. The next name in the Atlantic is Harvey. Obviously Gert is active right now. The East Pacific's next storm will be Kenneth, if we see that anytime soon. Doesn't look like it just yet. In the Central Pacific, at the end of list 4, we have Walaka. That's next up over there. In the West Pac, Hato is the next name, followed by Pakar, and Banyan, of course, under use right now. As you can see, we've gone through quite a lot of storms there, and Oki is next on the list. The next list in the North Indian Ocean, the beginning of list 7. In the Southern Hemisphere, names that you'll be getting familiar with for the upcoming season: Hilda and Irving, the next names in Australia, Ava and Baguita in the Southwest Indian Ocean, and in Fiji, the next names are Fehi and Gita. So, this is the view at Force 13 HQ right now, and somewhere you can see me in the studio. Hello. Hi. We still don't have the normal webcam for some reason, but we'll gloss over that. Now let's bring in the Skype team, which is a rather small team at this moment in time, but sometimes quietness can be a good thing. Isaac, good evening. How are you?
Good.
And you're joining us from southern Texas. How's the weather there today?
Quite hot and hot.
That's
like it always is
predictable,
over
I
here in the
guess.
summer.
Yeah. And we're also... Is Orlando back yet? He took a little break. Yeah, it doesn't sound like he's here. But Orlando will be with us at some point during the stream. If you've got any questions or comments for us whilst we're on the air, do send us a message. Start your message with Force 13 to guarantee that it will be noted by us. Certainly acknowledged. And if you have anything to say about the systems, do let us know, and obviously we'll answer the questions. Isaac, what are your thoughts on Gert right now? Is it a hurricane? Is it not? And I think most people would argue that it will be upgraded later tonight.
Yeah, it's looking really better. It's looking way better than it did yesterday. I'll tell you that. Yeah, it'll probably be designated as a hurricane sometime later tonight on the next update, or on the update after that. But I would imagine it'll be the next update that they'll put out at around 8.
Cool. You got a little bit to go there.
Current information on Gert right now, as of the 5 p.m. advisory, it is 30.6 north, 72.3 west, moving north at 8 miles an hour. Pressure is 992, and has maximum sustained winds at 70 miles an hour. Yep. So really, really close to hurricane intensity, obviously.
And crucially, still no warnings in effect, and it's gonna looks like we're pretty confident it's going to pass right in the middle of in between Bermuda and the U.S. East Coast. And
if anything, the only effects that will be from it is maybe increased rip currents, maybe increased rip currents, pretty much, it seems. Then also on the other side of the world, we have in the Western Pacific, we have Typhoon Banyan right now, which currently has wind speeds of 85 knots, I believe, as of the latest update.
The eye just coming out in those latest frames.
It looked disabled last time in our last update, but now it's starting to come back out again, as I guess the last burst of intensification before it gets wrecked by wind shear and cooler sea surface temperatures.
I've not been looking at that so much. What's its latitude right now?
Current location on it apparently is 20 point.
Okay, not yet.
It's exactly 25.0 north.
25.
162. Yeah, exactly 25 north, and then 162.8 east.
Still got a window. Yesterday, when we were doing the update, the JTWC said that by now it would be a Category 3, 115 miles an hour. What are they saying now?
They're saying that it'll peak at a 95 knots as a 95 knot system
right.
On the 15th.
Just a little bit less.
On the 15th, yeah.
Well, it is technically the 15th already. What, 12 hours?
I think so.
Yeah, must be.
Yeah.
I think Orlando's back. Don't set me up like that.
Yeah, I've returned.
Yes, what are your thoughts on... Which one would you like to start with? I'll give you the floor. Gert, Banyan, up to you.
Well, I'll start on Gert, which I think it might peak as a Cat 1 briefly. Before weakening and becoming extratropical, or more or less intensifying, but becoming extratropical quite quickly as lows in these areas and take storms that take this track do over time. I'm sorry I sound like a nervous wreck, but that's because I was running. Anyway, so yeah, with the system
literally
overall,
running to the studio, were you?
It seems like it's in a decent environment for the time being, which should allow it to become a Cat 1. From there, it'll just take off.
What do you mean by take off? Movement, not intensity?
Well, the take off by movement.
Because the HWRF thinks it will take off in intensity as well.
No.
HWRF for some reason usually tends to be bullish with Atlantic systems.
Yeah. Last year, I think it was actually. Wasn't it last year like one of the best models or the best model last year? And now it's
we were commenting on these things in yesterday's stream.
I think last year it wanted Hermine to hit Tampa as a Category 3.
No, it went into I think it would have been Alabama or Mississippi as a Category 4 actually as well possibly. But the HWRF, of course, during 2016 was generally very good. It started really well in the West Pacific with Nipartak, got a few other storms nailed, and was very good in the Southern Hemisphere in the last winter for many of those storms down there in the Southwest Indian Ocean and beyond. So coming into this year it was pretty good, but for the Northern Hemisphere this year so far, not great.
Yeah. Well, the GFS has been pretty bad this year too.
That as well. Who can you trust right now with models?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now all you have to do now is just use your all that we could do now is just use analogs and our basic knowledge to figure out what's going to happen. Almost that's how low it's gotten because of all the uncertainties between all the models. Occasionally, you might get like a collective agreement, but one of the invests which formed Gert, it was actually supposed to earlier on when it just came off the Cape Verdes to intensify quite quickly. But look at it now; it got named later on, and although it's going to basically become a hurricane and redeem itself, and that sort of say, but yeah, it just shows that you can't really trust the models, especially this year.
Any reason why you might think that is?
Well, it's just because the fact that, especially in the Atlantic, some systems that were supposed to get, that had the chance to become strong actually didn't. And like with Gert, for example, some of the models wanted it to become really really bona fide overall. Like even some even said major hurricane status, but HWRF is saying major hurricane status right now.
40 miles an hour, no less.
Well,
I'm not sure if they're still saying that, but they said that 5 runs in a row.
Yeah, I think it might have to do with a technological error. I think Hank pinpointed that earlier. But I don't know if they fixed it or anything.
Yeah, but it's almost at hurricane status already, so you never know.
Well, who knows? Maybe we'll have Cat 4 winds maybe as an extra tropical low.
Oh, no. Oh, that hits the UK, no doubt. Yep.
Oh, man. That'll be one of those another windstorms for the UK.
No thanks. Some questions. People asking about the SEWS, Storm Early Warning System. It's not necessarily an operational system that's maintained on the website. We just use it now and again whenever something's going on. I mean, you could say that this is one of those, okay, but it's mainly for early warning of potential tropical cyclones rather than fully fledged storms. 91L, I'm not sure really deserves the merit just yet. And also, what's the word I'm looking for? Speculation is the word about how 91L might, according to the HWRF, apparently hitting Puerto Rico as a 930 millibar storm. I'll have to look that one up and clarify that. Not quite the latest, but I gotta tell you, the latest HWRF for 91L says 100 and pretty much rounded up 150 miles per hour, and not hitting Puerto Rico but passing just south of there.
Oh dear.
As a 150 miles an hour storm, that's ludicrous.
I'm getting my screen.
Do you think 91L will do anything? Will form first of all, and then and then potential effects?
Well, I think it's mainly a waiting game at the moment, because it's really uncertain at the moment if this storm is actually going to become something worrisome. Because we've seen many storms like in the beginning with like Brett, for example. It really took a while, and then I believe there was this other area of investigation that it was supposed to also earlier on become something, but it never did, and it actually had a huge chance to do so, but it never got itself back together, and it was crushed by dry air.
Now, what we're looking at here is the National Hurricane Center's track map, pretty much the same as what we were showing on our animated graphic, but you can see it all in one here. As you can see, expected to become a hurricane imminently. I don't see why not. And becoming an extratropical hurricane strength storm on Thursday, and then out to sea over there. And it doesn't look like, thankfully, it's coming to the UK. It looks like it's going to Greenland instead.
Yeah. And then here's Typhoon Banyan right here to check for that, if you guys wanted to see that. Again, like I said, oh wow, this is an older track. Oh, don't mind this. Right now it's 85 knots, and its forecast peak is 95 knots.
That's
this
old.
is an older track. Yeah, that's old. I don't know how I got that. But anyways, maybe
it should work.
See, hopefully it does.
Yeah, it would be nice. There it is.
Oh, it's loading.
We're about to get
there it is.
And as you can see, it's getting quite close to Alaska on that forecast.
Yep. And you can see with the track, if I were to move this over here, it's just going to go up north. I can't see if I can pull up winds here later on.
I think apart from Wake Island, Midway is the closest land point there, and that's very, very far away on that map.
Yeah. And if you can see the like I said, 85 knots currently, expected to peak at 95 knots on the 15th at 18 UTC.
Yep.
So,
later Tuesday. Okay.
See if we can try imagery.
What else have we got here?
I have imagery. Hopefully it loads. I hope it loads. It'd be cool if it loads.
Well, whilst we wait for it to load, we'll just leave you with this imagery. If you've got any questions for us, do send a message. We're now joined by David, I believe.
Good to be here.
Good evening, and I don't know if you've been around very much, but what are your thoughts on the current situation?
Well, Gert, will it reach... I haven't checked the latest information, and before I continue, hi to the viewers. Is Gert going to reach hurricane status, or is he going to fail? Gertrude.
Come on, David. I think he's just woken up.
Gertrude. I thought it could be a male's name, but you said a female.
I mean, I think someone said that in the comments yesterday. Oh, look at this. Isaac?
That's how Banyan is doing currently. You can see it's trying to reform its eye there. It's still a little bit cloudy, but it's trying to get it going right now. I also have, what is it, Gert. I keep forgetting its name for some reason. There's Gert. This just goes our imagery of Gert and how it's doing. And you can see how it's trying to get its act together. And, yeah, I don't really have any further comments unless you guys have anything to say.
Well, not really. I mean, the cloud tops aren't massive, are they? And it's a little bit messy still, but the center looking not too bad at all, and well, the eye. And as it fades into the infrared imagery now, I think it could look pretty good tomorrow. Could have a ragged Category 1 type eye, and probably a Category 1 in name by first light tomorrow, if not earlier.
And I believe Marcel also joined us too. I don't know if he's here right now.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. I don't know if his audio is working.
Well, now's a good time to find out. Well, doesn't look like.
Again, here's Banyan again. On how it's looking.
I don't suppose you have any infrared imagery of Banyan right now. take a look at how those cloud
but
tops actually look.
I do, but in the latest frames it's looking good. But I do, but it's gonna take another like 30 minutes for it to load on this computer.
Well,
so
we can wait 30 minutes whilst we do a few more things.
Okay.
I'd really like us to see that for the viewers, Isaac.
Okay, just go ahead on your satellite stuff, and I'll try to get it for you if I can.
Yes, well, we're just going through the various satellite imageries. And David, what are your thoughts on 91L and the HWRF saying it will go into the Eastern Caribbean as a Category 4, 150 miles an hour? Is it preposterous?
It's a possibility, and I think we should be paying more attention to that one. But Nathan, I'm also interested in what's behind it. There could be another 3 tropical waves behind 91L coming off the African coast. But what did I say yesterday? That 91 could develop, so I had to retract that comment and make it about 5 days, but it could be sooner. But 91, I think that one has a very good chance of going into the Eastern Caribbean and probably up through the Yucatan. I haven't checked the various tracks on it, but we need to pay attention to that one.
I gotta say something right now. The Force 13 website, ironically, is saying that Gert's a hurricane. I can tell you that's not true at this moment in time. The actual fact. There is a small technical error on that one. Only by 1 mile an hour or so. The Force 13 website uses the real-time ATCF, which is not operational, but it is indicative, and it is showing 73 mile per hour winds, but just on the tropical storm side rather than the hurricane side. So the real-time ATCF suggesting it is very much borderline, and we are just waiting pretty much for the inevitable. And it probably will indeed be a hurricane very soon by the next update from the National Hurricane Centre, most likely at 11 o'clock Eastern Time. Here's the full picture from the National Hurricane Centre right now, and you can see that new area of interest. Who's showing this?
Me.
Yeah.
My connection's been going in and out.
Yeah.
So
still is.
I think someone's gonna have to talk about it.
Yeah, your signal's really poor at the moment, but it's saying 20% on.
Well, currently, the one that just behind it has 0% chance within the next 48 hours.
Yep.
To the next 5 days, a 20% chance, and then 90.
Yeah.
91L has of course, 30%, and then
I think what is it? 30 and 60, is it?
Yeah.
Right. We're really struggling with the signal, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And you can see they think it's going to go through a little bit further north, and they think it could potentially be a significant threat to more the northern Antilles. Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
So
I'm trying to manage my computer right now.
Yeah, David?
Just looking at the NHC advisory on 91. Elongated area low pressure located several hundred miles west-southwest of the Cape Verde Islands. As you mentioned, percentages 48 hours 30%, 5 days 60%. And then there's I mentioned about the tropical wave over Western Africa is forecast to emerge into the far eastern Atlantic Ocean in about 2 days. So there's one of possibly 4, and that one coming off the coast The NHC gives it 5 days, 20%.
And there you can see the Eastern Pacific right now looking busy.
Can one say that's crazy?
Well, they're all low chances there. The third one there, 20%. The all 20%? 30% on the first one there. So less than half chance on all three of those. But there are three nonetheless, and we could see a potential next storm. Conditions are a little less favourable over there in the Eastern Pacific than they used to be. As we've gone out of our first peak of the season, you could call it over there. There could be another one later though, in September, October. And back to the imagery there of Gert right now, and we'll also bring you a few more pictures if you've only just joined us. If you've got any questions whilst we're on the air, make the most of the hour that we've got here. We're almost halfway through already. Send your messages through. Start your message with Force 13 all in text, and it will light up for me, and it's very very convenient. And there you can see the floater imagery on Gert shortly before the beginning of tonight's hour. Don't forget, we're here every day now at this time, same place, 8 PM Eastern Time, midnight UTC. We're here for an hour every day unless we give notice of something that may be happening, that in the event that we cannot bring the show to you. But I expect that most nights we will be here at a regular slot, so you know where we are. And there's the floater imagery on Banyan moving off towards the north-northwest. And I think actually on Isaac's screen, or wherever it might be, there's a infrared view there which we were looking for earlier. And you can see, I mean, what's it dealing with to the northwest there? Is it dry air or wind shear?
Dry air. Wind shear. It's about to head into a neutral environment for wind shear, so it's not going to have too much of a favorable conditions. In fact, let me go ahead and check the wind shear while I'm at it here.
And the eye's been trying to come out there, and it's, you know, not looking perfect. Okay, there's a question. That's nice.
Yeah.
What's your prediction for the Atlantic hurricane season? Well, that's a very broad question. If you want me to say numbers, Force 13's numbers that we went with back in May said, as far as I recall, because I can't quite remember anymore, it certainly said 15 named storms, but I can't quite remember what the other values were, so I'll have to go and dig that up again, back from what we said in May. I know that
makes two of us.
Yeah, I know it said 15 named storms. Yeah, 8 hurricanes and 4 majors is what the pre-season prediction came out with. And, well, if we're going to go on that topic, we may as well discuss it a little bit, and how maybe it's verified or not so far. What we anticipated for the Atlantic was that there would be a high chance of tropical storm conditions on the Greater Antilles. That hasn't really verified yet, but could do later on. Also for the east coast of the United States, the Outer Banks in particular, which, you know, could have verified with Gert if it had been a little bit different, but it isn't, and it's moving out to sea, thankfully. And also for the Yucatan, which obviously has been hit already by Franklin, and also the Lesser Antilles, which has come pretty close. Well, actually, sort of has been hit, hasn't it, by those low latitude storms that we had earlier in the year. And along the coast of Texas and northern Mexico, where Isaac is actually under a more than half chance of tropical storm conditions, according to Force 13's numbers from earlier in the year. As for major hurricane conditions, we'll skip hurricane because there's not much time, but for major hurricane conditions, the chances are that there'll be a major hurricane on the southern coast of Cuba and on the Yucatan Peninsula, and possibly around the US-Mexico border. Those are the 3 hotspots that we're looking out for this year. And if anyone wants to comment on that in the room right now, you're welcome to. We're also looking at the Central Pacific, by the way, whilst I've been talking. A disturbance there with a 10% chance as it moves what appears to be slowly towards the west-northwest. Is Marcel here? I thought I saw him there. Never mind. David, go ahead.
Just about to bring up the screen share. We haven't looked at wind shear, vorticity, shear tendency for the Atlantic, the East Pac. I'm just waiting for...
Bryce wants to know if there is anything, if we predict anything will hit Florida. Ooh, more noises. Well, for Florida, for tropical storm conditions, we gave it a 50% chance for most of the Florida coast. The Panhandle area has a higher chance at around 70%. So that's quite significant. The Panhandle area is what we're looking at, more than anything. And the Florida Keys with the least chance, though. If you take a look at one or two models recently, that might verify. 20% I think we gave for that, 25, something like that, for tropical storm conditions this year. As for major hurricane conditions, we gave the Panhandle area 20% chance, and the western coast, Tampa included, around a 15% chance, which is still quite sizable as far as major hurricane chances go. Anyway, who's next? David's showing us some wind shear graphics.
No,
someone is.
I think
I
someone.
thought you were. Isaac is.
It's me. It's me.
Isaac beat me to it, but it's all right.
Press the keyboard.
All right, I'll fire one up.
As you can see there, prohibitively high wind shear to the southeast and to the north of Gert. It's going to go through that passage by the looks of things, isn't it? Of low to moderate wind shear.
Okay, 850 millibar vorticity for the Atlantic, and three areas of interest. You
Have
can
you got
see
it on the
Gert.
screen? We ain't got it yet, David. Might want to try that again. Whilst I wait for that, could Harvey and Irma form soon? Well, certainly one of those names could form soon if the HWRF decides it's going to get at least part of it right. Maybe we'll get another name, if nothing else. And of course we'll be monitoring that very closely. 91L, National Hurricane Center thinks 60% chance in the next 5 days. Probably about right. And do you expect Gert to peak as a Cat 1, 2 or 3? Quite a limiting set of options there. Oh, that's Marcel in the background there, singing to some chanting or something like that. Enjoying himself, clearly. But also, what was I going to say? Good. The HWRF thinks that it's going to be a Category 4. So, I don't know whether we dismiss that or not. But I think the general consensus, according to... well, according to the viewers right now, think it's going to be a 1 or a 2. The models overall think it will be probably a Category 1. But looking at it right now, pretty much a Category 1 already. It will probably get near Category 2. I'd agree with the National Hurricane Center's forecast. They're saying 90 miles per hour. I believe Marcel's back now.
It was an accident. I forgot to put... The steering mix was put on the microphone, and I didn't. I didn't.
What are your opinions on Gert? Do you think it's a hurricane?
I will see the floaters.
Well, it's on the screen right now if you're able to look. And okay, there are one or two more questions or comments, whether they're questions or not. But some speculation about whether 91L, the invest, would split into two. I can see what you mean by that if we could just get the wide shot up here. You can see here what it looks like right now. 91L is the system on the right hand side designated, but you can see there nearby there is another rotating or partially rotating area further to the west there that could also be designated. One or two models were hinting that one or even both of those systems might develop, but it doesn't look like both of them will, and it looks like 91L will become the dominant system. One moment. One other thing. Do you think Gert could hit Canada or Newfoundland? Newfoundland in Canada, perhaps. Yes, it's quite well. It's possible that there will at least be some high surf there, and obviously you won't want to go anywhere near the coast. But I don't think there will be tropical storm or hurricane conditions unless the track deviates significantly. Marcel, you're up.
Okay, I think. Oh. I think Gert is trying to get an eye feature, if I am not wrong.
It's already got an eye feature, hasn't it, really?
Yes.
Particularly on the infrared, yeah.
But seeing the cloud tops and things and all of that, I think it could be a 75 miles per hour hurricane.
Well, it probably will be at the 11 o'clock advisory. 2 hours from now.
But I don't think Gert will go much more of that.
All right, David, I think you wanted to come in.
You haven't got my screen share, have you?
No, I've not got anything at the moment.
You haven't.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Actually, one moment. We will. I think we do have it now. Yes. Go ahead.
Okay, we were looking at the 850 millibar vorticity for the Atlantic, and you can see where 91 is, and
Is it the one on the right or the one on the left? I don't actually know which one 91
I think it's the one on the left, Nathan, and the one on the right should merge. But then you can see that little bit of yellow.
Hold on, let me... No, 91L is definitely the one on the... Actually, it might appear that 91L is somewhere in between. When is that image dated, David? That's current, is it?
15th, yeah, 15th of August, 000.
So that's current.
UTC.
Well, yeah. That's quite surprising to see, because it looks to me, when looking at the imagery I'm looking at, is that 91L is sort of in between those two. It's quite odd. But anyway,
well, it could be, but they should both merge, and then you can see that little bit of yellow to the southeast of those islands.
Cape Verde Islands.
Right, so that could be that other African wave that could come on the radar, as per what I mentioned re the NHC, that it could come on the radar within the next day or two. So that's the vorticity.
Yep.
And the wind shear.
Yep, another look at there at the wind shear, and you can see that channel there where the wind shear is not prohibitive for Gert. But looking further south there, you can see the low amounts of wind shear ahead of 91L for a short time, then it rises substantially, and then low amounts in the Caribbean where it's dry, it would appear.
Now we'll switch across to the East Pack for the 850 millibar vorticity. And what was the NHC showing up? 3 possible systems?
Yeah, all at low chance. The one further west with the highest chance at 30%.
That one there, yep. And then you've got 1, 2, 3. Those 3 areas closer to the coast, the Mexico coast. I think I've got that right.
Yeah, indeed.
Yep.
Well, there's quite a few systems that are in contest there by the looks of things. I think it's the one on the left, the biggest one there that we were pointing out. The one just to the right there. Yep, that one, and not the next one over, but the one over beyond there. That one, I think, is the other one.
So 1, 2, 3.
But none of them have a high chance, at least not yet. 30% is the highest.
Yep.
Let's see. Could Harvey and Irma form from 91L and the other disturbance? It's unlikely, though not impossible. I don't see it happening. What do you guys think?
Well, 91 gets the name of what? Harvey?
If
Yeah.
it
Is that
forms.
the next on the list?
It is the next name on the
And-
list. Yep.
The one after
It'll be
that?
09L, I believe, too.
The
If
number.
it's the state's depressant status. With the state's depressant status, it'll be 09L. So.
Well, I'd say it'll probably be that that African wave coming off the coast now that Nathan, we just looked at the vorticity, the 3 areas, and it'll be that third one closer to the coast. And currently on the screen, we have a...
You can quite clearly see Gert's influence there.
Yep,
And
total precipitable water.
And you can sort of see there, sort of the reason why Gert will not steer into the United States is that real trail there to its north, and it's going to pretty much follow that, isn't it?
But is it tracking north when you're looking at the
Well,
motion
it's-
where the pink is?
Well, it's curving towards the north, and it'll be no surprise if that's the case.
That'll be on the east. Go.
It's dragging to the north, but it's just gonna be halted basically by, like basically you could say a wall, but that area is actually just gonna pull it out, but in that area happens to be a low shear environment, so it might take that to its advantage as long as the dry air doesn't get into it during that time frame.
Yeah, it's going to have to move pretty far eastward though if it's going to keep in that low wind shear amount as we saw on that map. But it looks like under the forecast track from the NHC it will move quite far east, but not enough to avoid the higher wind shear amounts, and that might prevent it from becoming a strong transitioning hurricane.
And you can see the pink for Gert and 91L, and closer to the African coast. Now we go to
Oh my, what's this?
a microwave of Gert, I think.
No,
Is
it's
it
not.
Gert?
Is that the progression
That's
of
Hover.
Hover? Oh dear, it
That's
looked terrible the whole time, didn't it?
Yes, it's shocking.
Yeah, to put it one way.
It's shocking.
Yeah, it's gone
Disgraceful.
now. Oh dear, it's gone now, of course.
Right. What else?
Other people saying things about this year seems to be like a mix of 2005 and 2010. What are your thoughts on that, guys?
Well, it definitely won't be a 2005, I believe, or not as active, I would imagine.
Well, 2005. Let's see. Were we up to in 2000? We know Katrina was a week away, and 2010 we already had what I'd call a major hurricane in Alex, even if it wasn't official. I think it ought to be. What else were we up to by now in 2010? Earl hadn't arrived yet, had it or had it? I can't remember.
I think it was later August, if I'm correct.
I think Danielle was round about now, wasn't it?
I believe so.
And that became a Category 4. And then Earl. So, you know, I mean, 2010 probably produced a lot more ace than this year. In 2005, I'm sure did as well. Because Emily and... Well, Emily. Category 5. And all the other storms and a few hurricanes in the mix there as well. And this is only our second. After a lot of very weak tropical storms. I think 2017's got a long way to go before it competes with 2010 and 2005. But there is still a long way to go in this year. And what I like to say at this point is that tropical storm season is over and we're entering the real hurricane season now in the Atlantic. Here's the latest forecast guidance provided by David for Gert. and as you can see, the model guidance has shifted upwards for intensity, and you could possibly put the consensus there at mid to high range category 1, and that would be at the, what are we looking at there, 48 to 60 hour point. So we're looking at late on Wednesday into Thursday.
And look at that one, Cat 4.
Yeah, well, that's the HWRF, and it's been saying that for 6 runs in a row. And usually, in 2016, when the HWRF said something 6 runs in a row, you sat up and listened to that. I'm not sure it's going to verify at all. But if it does, well, everyone's going to have to hold the HWRF in high regard yet again, as they ought to have done back in 2016 and in the 2016-17 season in the Southern Hemisphere. I certainly did anyway.
Okay. And I think Banyan I could get. Banyan is already a Cat 3.
You think so?
Yes, I think Banyan.
Marcel thinks it's a Category 3 already.
It's at least 185.
What? Sorry?
180. 185 kilometers per hour.
Kilometers per hour.
Or 110 miles per hour.
Worried. At least 110 miles an hour. Okay, good.
But
I thought,
this is the wind shear, obviously.
110, 115.
It's about to head into some lighter wind shear. The only problem it'll head into is some drier air up here, and then some cooler sea surface temperatures as it drifts north. Then if you look at the shear tendency
you said earlier that it was wind shear causing the problems. It can't be.
Yeah, earlier there's some pretty big wind shear around here, but now it's all gone pretty much already.
So it must be dry
so it has
air,
a little bit. Yeah, it's dry air, and then also the sea surface temperatures, because obviously as it heads more north, the sea surface temperatures get more cooler, so it's gonna blend to cooler waters. So
let's bring up the sea surface temperatures on the screen right now in the Western Pacific. There they are. So Banyan is at something like 25 north and 160 east, which is somewhere on this image. I can't quite remember. I think it's somewhere. It's difficult to point out without a pointer, but I'd say the sea surface temperatures there are still pretty high, gotta say, until it yeah, still good enough till it gets to about 31, 32 north. SSTs right now are somewhere around 28 Celsius, but it will drop off in the next 24 hours.
Yeah. There's hopefully able to see that there is what do I keep forgetting the name? Gert. There's Gert and the dry air.
This is Gert, is it? Yes.
Yeah, this is Gert. It's fighting off the wind shear. The dry air around it. See, there's some big pockets over here. And there.
The cloud tops just don't look that impressive, which is the structure's quite nice, but cloud tops aren't there.
And
that's why it's not already a hurricane. It's got an eye, all right, but it's not a hurricane.
And again, here's Banyan again. This image was taken about 10 minutes ago, so it's a little out of date. So I need to refresh the page. But, yeah. And to see if it'll update. Should have updated already. Have updated already. Please just yeah, there it is. It's animated clip of it. Throughout the next few hours, and it's trying to clear out its eye a little bit there, and then it kind of fluctuates a little bit and wanes.
Yeah.
And great.
A lot of
if you want to see the track again.
A lot of people thinking the Atlantic will be very active this year. Some people suggesting Greek alphabet. And the latest message there, Gert could reach 100 miles an hour. Yeah, it's certainly not beyond the realms of possibility. National Hurricane Center saying 90 miles an hour, just shy of it. It's quite possible. And I'd agree that it should get to borderline Category 2.
And as you can see the track again for those who weren't on when we first showed it. basically not really going to affect any land away from Bermuda, away from the east coasts. And really, the only thing that we should expect from this is maybe a little bit higher than normal sea levels, and mostly just mainly rip currents along the coast areas.
Yes.
Then again, yes, Marcel.
I think the northeast coast is going to be affected by swells and high waves because of the storm.
Well, Orlando's not far from there. How are conditions in terms of rainfall
But nothing more than that.
And drought conditions? Are you looking for a storm necessarily?
Yeah, it's not as severe.
Oh. That's Marcel in the background somewhere.
I will be very upset though the eclipse day that
Eclipse day. Yeah, if Gert arrived on eclipse day, well, it doesn't look like. No chance of that. No chance that it'll be Gert arriving on eclipse day, but I don't think any other systems will either.
Hopefully. But, so it seems as though that the shear tendency over Gert might interfere as it pushes away from moving north to moving northeast. And then when it comes to the conditions, it still seems that Gert's still holding itself together when it comes to its vorticity. And also it seems like the air as well is not looking great to its east, so it might interfere with the system while it pushes northward. It might. I'm not as certain how long it will hold up hurricane intensity as a tropical system, but I have my doubts on the NHC at the moment on how long it's going to hold up.
Yeah, it's sort of got it on both sides there, hasn't it? Ronald asks, will there be 4 feet of storm surge on the east coast? I'm assuming that's a question. Well, I don't think it'll be storm surge per se. The NHC in their update doesn't give a number, but they say that there'll be swells and rip currents and things going on all the way up to Long Island, I believe they said.
For the beachgoers on the east, I think the main concern for your vacations along the eastern seaboard would be swells and rip currents. That would be the main threat. You can go ahead.
I don't think there will be any storm surge on the northeast coast. The storm is too far from land.
Yeah, there is a difference between the rip currents and an actual storm surge.
It's just the atmosphere isn't right for it to just head up the east coast. There's basically a boundary between the system.
It doesn't have much influence on its northern and northwestern side anyway.
Yeah. It's more towards the eastern half of the system.
Well, we're here for a few more minutes. If you've got any questions, this is your last chance for tonight. But we're tracking Tropical Storm Gert on the verge of being a hurricane, though I've got to say, looking at that version of the imagery, the infrared there, the cloud tops have really disappeared quite a bit in those latest frames, and I do wonder what's going on with that. The eyes come out, but the cloud tops have sort of disappeared with it as well, the highest ones.
Because of that, I thought that at one point I thought that Gert was a hurricane.
You doubt it?
Yes. I think it could be in any part between 70 and 75 miles per hour.
Yeah, it's quite a narrow range there on the borderline of hurricane state. The real-time ATCF does agree. It says 74 miles an hour right now, by the way. But they still don't think it's a hurricane. I don't think that even computes, does it? But in fact, an update that the ATCF does say, and normal operational ATCF does say that it is a hurricane now. So we're expecting now that Gert is a hurricane. This isn't official, but it's as good as official, because quite often, almost every time, the NHC follows the ATCF information which comes out a few hours before their updates, and they now say that it is 75 miles per hour and a pressure of 986. And that Banyan is also up to 105 miles per hour and a pressure of 966. So that's the latest breaking news here. Gert is likely, almost certainly, a hurricane, 30.8 degrees north, 72.3 west, 75 miles per hour, and Banyan is up to 105 miles an hour, 25.9 north, 162.5 east. Reaction, guys? I guess that's expected, isn't it?
Pretty much. We kind of expected it to become a hurricane later tonight or morning, but it seems it's become later tonight a hurricane.
Yeah, well, I figured that they would do it at 11 p.m. Eastern time.
There's Banyan right there again.
Yep. The latest imagery on Banyan, which is up slightly to 105 miles an hour. Well, that's us out of time for tonight. Thanks everyone in the room here for joining us. David, Orlando, Isaac and Marcel. I hope I didn't miss anyone out. I always worry about that. Thanks very much. And also to the viewers, as always. And we will be back again with another update tomorrow at the same time, same place. Tropical Weather Bulletin we will have live at midnight UTC on whatever day the next day is. I forgot what day it is, can you believe it? Tuesday night. And all further nights in between, and we'll have updates on social media and, if necessary, updates on the channel in between as well, of course. That's all from us here at Force 13 HQ. We'll be back again tomorrow or sooner if necessary. Thanks for watching, good night.